I asked on my story what content you guys were looking for, what you really needed to hear, and what things you were struggling with. And one of the top responses I got was actually centered around market research. And I know that this is a huge thing that comes up for a lot of people because I know that people have such a hard time figuring out who their ideal audience is and how to actually speak to them and sell to them in a meaningful way that's going to turn into sales. So there's a ton of different ways to do market research, and I want to go through and I actually did a 3-part training about this inside of our program, and so I want to give you a little bit of insight into the things that we talked about in that training and some of the advice that I gave to our clients to take it and run with, so that they could actually really have a deep grasp and understanding of what it is that their audience needs to hear from them, what topics are coming up, what people are searching for, and how they can effectively and impactfully speak to their audience in a way that's going to create sales, create impact, and ultimately build connection with their audience. So the very first section of this is just understanding your target audience and what your ultimate goal is with your content, with your offers, with who it is that you're trying to reach. And so first and foremost, you need to ask yourself, what problems are you actually solving for your ideal audience? Now, this is going to be the foundation for everything else that you're going to do. If you understand what problems they're having that you are able to solve through your offers, you understand specifically how your offer is able to solve those problems for your clients, and you're able to articulate that in a way that's going to be aligned with the type of buyers that they are, you're going to have a very simple time creating content and selling and scaling your business. So that's number one. When you're looking at what information you're actually going to need to gather when it comes to doing market research, first and foremost, you need to kind of set targets for what the things are that you know that you need to understand and gather from that market research. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong, is they start kind of searching aimlessly, hoping that they're going to get some insight as to what's going to make people buy. They start looking at competitors, looking at what other people are posting, using random search tools, and getting really just a ton of random information that isn't going to be super targeted to their ideal buyer and specifically relating to, again, the problems that your offers uniquely find a way to solve. So you have to be looking at, number one, what are the symptoms that are coming up in people's day-to-day lives as a result of that problem that they're having? Because a lot of people are not readily aware of what that problem is that they're experiencing. They don't know what the root cause is. All they're aware of is what they're experiencing. And so that's what you're able to speak to on social media and build connection through. So I always use this example, but think of it this way. If you have a sore throat, right? That's your symptom. That's what you're aware of. You know that you have a sore throat. What you don't know is what's causing it. Is it the flu? Is it strep? Is it allergies? We have no idea. So you don't know what that root cause is. So someone speaking to the root cause and giving you tips and tricks for how to get rid of the flu isn't going to speak to you when you don't know that you have the flu, right? And it goes the same for your clients. In this example, you're the doctor. You're providing that diagnosis to your ideal audience. So you're helping them to understand that that sore throat that they have, whatever it is for your audience, that symptom that they're experiencing in their day-to-day, you're connecting that with what their actual problem is and helping them to have that aha moment, which goes into a couple different elements of sales psychology, but you're helping them to have that aha moment. You're creating some reciprocity with them. You're building trust, and ultimately they're going to want to go binge your content when you are able to provide that aha moment for them. So when you're wanting to get a really good grasp on what the symptoms are that your audience is experiencing as a result of the problems that they're having, you need to think about all of these different categories. So we have income, relationship status, health and wellness, career, personal, and then likes and dislikes. And the likes and dislikes element goes into a little bit of behavioral economics, where we're understanding what these predetermined biases are that your audience has about your industry, your product, the problems that they have, whether or not it's solvable, et cetera, et cetera. So I know a lot of industries, for example, the fitness industry, there's a lot of preconceived notions that people have around specific diets or exercise plans or even just fitness coaches in general. And so those biases that we know that people are predetermined to have is something that we're going to need to take into account, and almost an objection that we're going to need to handle right off the bat when it comes to understanding our audience and really understanding what those biases are, what those likes and dislikes are, what their misconceptions are, what their myths are that they're bought into in relation to your product or service. So moving beyond your target audience, what then you dive into is just all of the different ways that you can do market research. So I've written down a list because there's literally a million things, and I want to touch on just a couple of these that I think are super effective. So number one, TikTok is such a cheat code for market research for a variety of reasons. Number one, you have the search feature and the search engine capabilities that they're really bringing into the platform. So when you type in different questions and search queries, there's a lot of information that pops up. There's related search terms, there's hashtags, there's keywords, there's videos, there's different formats of videos, there's different creators, people's accounts come up. So there's a lot of information that can be gleaned from just a couple of searches on TikTok. Now, I know that a lot of people would tell you to go look at your competitors' content, and I am going to suggest that you do that. However, I'm really not super interested in what your competitors are posting because you don't know what the intention is behind that post. You don't know what their strategy is. You don't know if they have a strategy at all, or if they're just as out of touch with their audience as everyone else is. You have no idea. Now, what you can glean really successfully from your competitors' accounts and what they're posting is what their audience is communicating to them. So if you, number one, look at the performance of their videos in relation to certain topics and formats. That's number one, going to be very telling. Number two, looking at the comment sections. What are people asking? What problems are they having? What video concepts are they relating to or self-identifying with and going, oh my gosh, that's something that I do. Maybe you can pull a symptom from one of their videos that they hit home to. You can pull a lot of information from what people are commenting. And the biggest cheat code of all is to join TikTok or Instagram lives when your competitors go live and specifically just pull the questions straight out of the comment section, because for, half an hour at a time, people are just literally brain dumping every thought and concern that they have to these creators. And you can sit back, relax, and take notes. It's a very, very valuable way to go about market research. Now, you can do the same things that I mentioned on Instagram. The search engine is not quite as great with Instagram, but you can still pull a lot of valuable information, do the same thing, go through comment sections, look at what people are responding to, see which posts have high numbers of saves and shares. That's going to be very telling to you as well. And then, of course, there are so many different search tools, everything from Google Trends, Pinterest Trends, Answer the Public, TikTok search, I mentioned YouTube search, anything where you can go about determining what it is that people are actually typing in when people are looking to solve a problem is going to be highly informative for you, because those are the words that you are going to want to use in your content. You want to use your ideal audience's words and essentially parrot them back to them. So when you're using this concept of mirroring, this is a form of mirroring, you're going to want to make sure that you are speaking their language. Think about how they would explain their problems to you. If they were to vent to you, if you were going to sit down for a spill sesh with them, how would they vent to you about these problems that are coming up for them? What are the exact words that they would be using? How would they describe it to you? Those are the words that you're going to want to take with you and use in your content, and you're going to want to use those exact words. Also looking at any past applications from clients, doing any interviews with people, like a focus group or interviews with past clients, anything like that that you can do, and ultimately sitting down and hearing from people directly, seeing exactly what words they're using, what the emotions are, what things tend to come up over and over again. Having conversations is going to give you the most direct form of market research and the most accurate, but there are so many other ways to gather that information. So once you've gathered and kind of categorized that information, the next thing that I recommend you do is go through and essentially create a person that you are going to be speaking to using all of this information. Now, I think a lot of people take it a little bit too far and spend too much time on this, going through creating a name and an avatar and all of this, but you basically want to understand what a day in this person's life looks like in regards to all of these things that they're experiencing. So if you know that somebody is dealing with this specific symptom, how is that impacting them on a daily basis? What is that doing for them? And again, going back to all those different categories I mentioned, how is that affecting their finances? How is that affecting their relationships? What are the specific issues that are arising as a result of the problems that they're having? Ask yourself, okay, what else? What else could I be doing? And essentially that's going to give you a great big list of everything that your ideal client is struggling with, everything they're going through, what thoughts and feelings and emotions they're having, the tangible examples of how it's affecting their day-to-day lives. And then, of course, you can link each of those things back to the problems that you know that they're having that they might not necessarily be aware of. And then your final task here is to really get an understanding of what the gap is in their mind. What do they think the problem is? What do they think is going wrong? What do they think would solve their problems? And really understanding what's happening in their head so that you can again come in and showcase how you bridge that gap between where they are and where they want to be. Now, beyond the symptoms and problems and all of that they're experiencing, you also need to understand what their desired outcomes are. So what is the opposite of what it is that they're currently experiencing? What does that look like for them? And when you can clearly articulate that as well and highlight the gaps in their understanding that are keeping them from attaining that desired outcome, you're going to have a lot easier time with content. So to recap, the key things that you're really wanting to understand through your market research is, number one, you have to understand clearly what the symptoms are and what the current reality of your ideal audience looks like. What's coming up for them on a day-to-day basis. Number two, what are the desired outcomes that they have that they don't necessarily know how to get to? Number three, what is the gap that's keeping them from getting there and how do you fill that gap? And then number four, what are those biases, those preconceived notions, those mistakes that they're making, any objections that might come up when they come into the buying process? So are they automatically going to assume that this service or product is too expensive? Are they going to automatically assume that they probably need to put this off a few months until there's better timing? What objections are going to come up? What is going to delay that purchase process? And if you can determine how you could overcome those objections for this group of people, you're going to have a very simple time creating sales. One final little bonus tip: as you're going through and really researching and determining what is coming up for your audience, what their desires are, and what words really they're using to describe this, you're going to also be able to determine what type of buyers you have in your audience. So if they're talking a lot about the negative impacts of their situation on their family, for example, you likely have an amiable buyer. If somebody is really result focused, really focused on wanting an ROI, really concerned about getting burned, really concerned about different investments and wanting to see results and timelines, you might have an analytical or a driver buyer on your hands. If you're hearing that people really are searching for a community and the client experience is really important to them, maybe you have more expressive buyers in your audience. So then what you can do is take all of this information that you've gathered and create content through the lens of what is going to speak to the types of buyers that you have more prominently in your audience. So hopefully this episode was helpful for you guys. Fun little mini exercise for you to work through. if you have any questions, my DMs are always open on Instagram. So you can always find me there at kenda.laney. We have a YouTube channel. I know a lot of people don't know that, but we have a ton of content out on YouTube that's longer form where you can learn a lot, implement a lot into your business. And of course, if you are someone who knows that you have these problems and that you need help with this, you need help with creating content that's actually going to speak to your ideal audience and sell them and convert, and you need help reaching just thousands of people on social media and actually turning that into sales, our doors are always open. We're happy to chat with you about how we can do this for your business. So I hope this episode was enjoyable. As always, be sure to subscribe to the podcast, leave a review. We love that. And if you have any questions at all, my DMs are always open. So thanks for being here, and I'll see you in the next episode.
It looks like we made it. Let's get it on, we got it going, moving on. It looks like we made it.